Don't keep applauding me. Please stop. Jeez. Just kidding. Hi, everyone. Hello. Welcome. So glad you guys are all here. I am stoked to be here. I am in a very good mood because it is retreat week, baby. Oh, I'm stoked. So I'm really looking forward to hanging out with Lino Lake, Spring Lake Park, Wayzata, Blaine this coming weekend. It's going to be amazing. But hey, listen, for weekend 2, I'm talking to Woodbury, White Bear Lake, and Anoka. And anyone who can't make it to weekend 1, registration is open right now. So get registered, come on retreat. If you come, you get this shirt that I'm wearing, the little drip. Know what I'm saying? So make sure you get there. It's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. Hey, for the past few weeks, we've been in a series called Views. And in this series, we've been talking about how our connection to God can improve our view on the world around us. And as we bring the series to a close tonight, I want to spend some time talking about the importance of finding rest. And the reason is because my guess is that a lot of you are probably pretty tired right now. Is anyone feeling tired right now? I mean, you guys have so much going on in your lives. You've got school, you've got jobs, you've got relationships, you've got the end of relationships, you've got church, you've got homework, you've got so much going on. And when everything is going on all around you all of the time, it can become really exhausting. And you might even feel like you don't have the option but to feel tired, because if you were to slow down, it would feel like life is passing you by. Or that the expectations that are on top of you, you're not living up to. Or like you don't have what it takes. And if I'm honest with you, that is exactly how I feel anytime I go into any gym ever. At all. I mean, I am not a very competitive guy. I'm just not. I wasn't built that way. But whenever I walk into a gym, I suddenly feel like everyone is sizing me up and I need to prove to them that I belong in the gym. And so I am that guy who puts way too much weight on the weight things, on the weight machine things. And I'm that guy who's like, can't do it, has to go around and like put it down to a very weak level, okay? I'm also that guy who runs way too fast on the treadmill at first. I just am like, I might not be very strong, but I run like a gazelle. I'm just like, in the safari. But then like 10 minutes into the run, I'm like out of gas, you know? I have got nothing left to give. My entire time spent in the gym is an effort to keep up with an invisible expectation that is impossible for me to meet. And look, there's like nobody telling me that I'm supposed to run that fast on the treadmill or to lift that much weight, but I feel this need to meet these expectations that no one is actually putting on me. And I feel like if I slow down for a minute, then I don't have what it takes. Now, there's nothing wrong with working out. There's nothing wrong with pushing ourselves. But when we live our life trying to constantly live up to an impossible, invisible expectation, we will end up living our life tired. We will be tired all the time. And eventually, we won't have what it takes emotionally. We won't have what it takes physically. We won't have what it takes with our time. We just will run out at some point. Those expectations can end up crushing us. So let me ask you, where is your impossible expectation coming from right now? Just locate it in your mind. For some of you, it's parents. For some of you, it's school. For some of you, it's your job or the sport you're playing. For others of you, it's this need to keep up an image that you have stuff put together on social media, but then also look really good in real life. For others of you, it's constantly trying to keep up with a culture that makes you feel left out, a culture that makes you feel alone. When we live our life under impossible expectations, we will end up living tired. But the good news is that God offers us a different viewpoint that can relieve us of those expectations and lead us to real rest. And so the question for tonight is, how do we find that? How do we find that real rest in our lives? And what I want to do is I want to give you 2 ways that you can find rest in your life starting today. And the first way is this. The first way is to put rest into your rhythm. So on page 1 of the Bible, we meet God creating the universe. Okay, he is speaking light and dark, land and sea, creatures and animals, matter and space into existence, which is pretty impressive considering that the biggest, most impressive thing that I've ever created is the ugliest bookshelf you have ever seen. I mean, I have a picture of it here. That's me. You might not even see it. This is the bookshelf. This is it right here. And just look how happy I am. I am so proud of myself in this. This bookshelf could not bear any weight on it at all. I mean, it would instantly tip over as soon as anything happened to it. But I was so proud of it because I spent the time creating it. Now, thankfully, God spent a little bit more intentionality and time into creating the universe. And the way that he did that was he put it all into a rhythm. See, what we read about is when God was creating the universe, he would create and speak, and then he would call it good at the end of the day. And then he would do that again over and over again for 6 days. He would create and work and speak that it was good, and then there would be the next day for 6 days. And then on the seventh day, God stopped working, he stopped creating, and he spent time exclusively on the good. Check out what it says in Genesis chapter 2. It says, "So the creation of the heavens and the earth and everything in them was completed. On the seventh day, God had finished his work of creation, so he rested from all of his work." And it goes on to say, "And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy," which just means special or set apart, "because it was the day when he rested from all his work of creation." So in Hebrew, the word that explains what God did on the seventh day is the Hebrew word Shabbat. Right here. You say Shabbat? It's good. Shabbat. Now, the way that we translate this and the way that you maybe even heard it is the word Sabbath. And if you heard of that word, you probably think of it as like a Sunday, right? A day where people usually go to church, they'll take a break, they maybe go to brunch, they won't go to Chick-fil-A because Chick-fil-A is closed on Sunday. But this is a day when God stopped. He just stopped all manner of creation, all matter of work, and he just took a day to rest. And what we see here is when God actually, when he did this, he was exemplifying for us how to actually put rest into the rhythm of our everyday life. And there are two really important things that he brings to the surface for us. And the first one is this. The first is that work really matters. That in order to put rest into your rhythm, that you have to have a healthy understanding of what work is. And the truth is that all of you have some kind of work in front of you to do every single day. Maybe that's school or homework or your job or the sport you play or the play that you're a part of at your school. And that work requires you to be intentional and to give a lot of effort to it. And we see that exemplified in how God created the whole world. I mean, I'm really glad that he spent a lot of time thinking about and planning and preparing where the line happened between the land and the sea and where our skull connects to our spine. What God did intentionally, he did with a lot of effort, and so should we. Your work really matters. But the truth is, you have probably heard that many times. I'm guessing that there isn't a day that is going by where someone isn't telling you to work hard at school, or to push yourself in practice, or to gain more influence, or subscribers, or followers, and to continuously hustle. You see, we live in a culture that praises intentional work, but forgets about intentional rest. See, the second thing that God really shows us about how to put rest into our rhythm is that rest matters just as much as work does. Just as much. God was just as intentional about his rest as he was about his work because he knew that rest was a rhythm. He put it a part of his life. For many of us, the reason we feel so tired is because rest has fallen out of our rhythm, or maybe it wasn't even in there in the first place. And we're longing for something that we've maybe never really even experienced. In other words, when we don't have an intentional plan to find rest in our lives, we are rarely rested. And there's a misconception about rest, which is that it should happen effortlessly and automatically. We should have to put no work into gaining rest. But the truth is that that's not how anything works. That's like wanting a clean room and never putting your crap away. Or wanting that guy or girl to date you and never actually asking them out, and then you're mad at them because they're not into you. Like, what? That just doesn't work that way. We have to put work and intentionality into the things that we want. And the same is true for rest. Rest is a rhythm. This means that we have to make intentional time in our days, in our weeks, in our months, and in our years to learn how to stop working, to stop creating, to stop hustling, and to start learning how to rest. Because when we rest and it's in our rhythm, we begin to feel less tired and more prepared for the work that we actually have to do. And so the first way to find real rest in your life is to put it into your rhythm. And the second way to find real rest in your life is to make rest meaningful over mindless. So this past summer, I celebrated my 30th birthday, which is kind of a big deal. Pretty stoked about it. And for my birthday, my wife was very kind to me. She had a whole day of stuff planned out. She had cool gifts, but the nicest thing that she did for me was she gifted me 3 days and 3 nights for a silent solitude retreat. Now, for some of you, you're like, that sounds like punishment and not fun at all, Brandon. But for me, it was awesome. It sounded really, really kind and gracious to me, and so I was stoked. And I was ready to fill this time up with running and reading and reflecting and resting and praying and worshiping. Like I had my days planned out. I was ready to go. So I packed up my stuff, drove out to the cabin where I was staying. Once I got there, I pulled out my phone to text my wife that I had arrived safely. And then instantly, have you ever experienced this? Instantaneously, without even thinking about it, as soon as I hit send on that text, the very next thing I did was click on Instagram. Like I didn't even mean to. I just clicked on it. And then for the next 2 hours, I was alone in the woods scrolling through Instagram. And the only reason I stopped is because I felt something hit me in the head. And I was like, I felt like a pebble hit me in the head. So I'm looking around, I was like, did someone throw something at me? But no one was there. And then it was at that moment I began to feel something ooze down the side of my face. And I realized, oh, a bird just crapped on my head. And in that moment, I was like, God, did you just make a bird poop on my head to make me stop scrolling through Instagram? Now, to be fair, I really don't think that God did make a bird poop on my head because I was scrolling through Instagram, but I took it as a wake-up call because I do this thing. I don't know if you can relate with this, but I do this thing where I confuse rest with waste. What I mean by that is when I actually put time to rest in my schedule, when it's in my rhythm, I'll get to that moment and I'll run into the danger of actually wasting that time instead of resting during that time. Like I can't tell you how many times I've told myself, Brandon, go to bed early, it's gonna feel amazing. And I get into bed and then I'm scrolling through random unconnected YouTube videos for hours. Or there'll be times where I wanna read or I wanna go for a walk or I will drive to the gym to work out and sit in my car scrolling through Instagram without end, looking at random stuff, people doing this thing over and over again. I still can't do it. I don't know how to do it. If you know how to do it, show me later. But I will watch that for hours. And the thing is that time that I should be using to rest, I'm actually wasting that time. Often my biggest challenge in finding rest is actually doing the things that bring me peace, that bring more meaning into my life. And that search can be kind of confusing, right? Because often when I find time in my schedule to rest, I'll say to myself, man, I just want to do something where I can turn my brain off. Have you ever said that? I need to disconnect. But usually when I give myself that excuse, that gives me the freedom to just like binge watch Netflix or to get lost in my phone for hours. And I'm not dogging on Netflix or social media. I mean, I use both of those things often, regularly. But what I'm saying is, usually after a binge session like that, I don't feel more rested, and I don't feel like I have more peace in my life. So the biggest challenge I have in finding rest is actually doing the things that bring me peace. A sense of contentment, a sense of happiness, a sense of fulfillment. And honestly, this is why I need God in my life. Like, I need God to lead me toward meaningful rest because he is our guide to lead us to a kind of rest that restores our soul. Psalm 23 says it like this: "The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul." The rest that God has in store for you and for me, it's meaningful over mindless. One of the things I love about this verse is it says, he makes me lie down. Like sometimes I actually need God to help me stop some of the things in my life. Stop looking at my phone. I need his help to stop looking at my phone for a minute. I need his help to stop worrying for a little bit. I need his help to stop feeling anxious and to take a breath. I need his help to stop engaging in unhealthy habits that bring more conflict into my life than it does peace. So let me ask you the question. How do you need to make your rest more meaningful? What would that look like for you? Man, for some of you, it would mean doing something really practical, like getting alone, listening to music that focuses your mind on something restorative. Or maybe it's creating music. For others of you, it means making church a priority in your schedule, in your rhythm, where you are constantly having a time in your life where you can connect with God and with people who love you and who care about you. For others of you, it's getting some really good friends around you and having a good time. Or maybe it's just exercising, working out. For others of you, it's reading, it's walking, it's spending time with your family. And many of us, if we're honest, we need to find a way to disconnect from distractions and go to sleep. Like, listen, I am giving you permission as your pastor to find time in your life to take a nap. Does that make anyone happy? Like, you deserve that freedom in your life. And a good way to figure out if what you're doing to get rest is actually restful is to ask yourself this question. Ask yourself, does what I'm doing bring me peace? And what I mean by the word peace is a sense of wholeness, completeness, a contentment with who you are, with what you have, and with the way that God loves you. If what you're doing doesn't increase more of that feeling in your life, that sensation in your life, then it might not be restful. It might not be leading you toward more peace. Because the truth is, when we make rest meaningful in our life, it will lead to peace every time. And if there's one thing that I think we all need more of in our life, it's peace. I mean, I wonder how many of you are here tonight and you just need some peace in your relationships. I wonder how many of you are here tonight and you need some peace in the way that you interact with the internet. You need some peace in your family, in the dynamic between you and your parents. You need peace in all of your responsibilities and all of the expectations that you have that are communicated to you and not communicated to you. How many of you need the peace of knowing that there is a God who is real, that knows your name and loves you for who you are? And this is why Jesus himself invites us to find meaning in him and allow him to lead us toward meaningful rest. In Matthew chapter 11, this is what Jesus says. He says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest." He will exchange your burden. He will exchange your expectation. He will exchange your stress and anxiety for rest. So friends, if you're here tonight and you're tired of being tired all the time, then I want to encourage you to make rest a priority in your life. And a way to do that is to put it into your rhythm. Don't assume that rest is just going to come to you in the craziness of your life, because it won't. Assume that rest will take a little bit of effort for you. It'll take some time and some intentionality. And then once you put it into your rhythm, make it meaningful. And for some of you, for real, finding meaningful rest means joining us on retreat, where you can get away from the distractions of everyday life and you can plug into and connect with God and with people who care about you and love you. Maybe some of you need to make retreat weekend number 2 a priority. You need to register tonight, seriously. For others of you, it's disconnecting from unhealthy habits or from time wasters and connecting to activities and practices that restore your soul. Friends, the reason rest is such a priority, the reason God models rest for us is not so that our world becomes more understandable, because life will always be confusing, but it is so that when life is confusing, there's a peace inside of us knowing that our rest is not determined by what's going on in front of us. Our rest comes from who God is and how he examples and how he is the example of a life lived with peace. My hope for you is that peace will follow you wherever you go because you make rest a priority in your life. So friends, with that, will you join me and pray together as we close? Jesus, thank you so much for your invitation to find rest in you. Thank you so much that you care enough about us to teach us and show us what a life lived with intentionality and meaningful rest looks like. God, I pray for my friends here tonight that are tired, for those that are trying to reach expectations that are impossible, for those that feel weighed down by a culture that they can never catch up to, or are just feeling lost in the midst of the craziness of the thing, right after the thing, right after the thing. God, in the midst of their craziness, would they find rest and peace in you? God, I pray that we would all take seriously the responsibility of putting rest into our rhythm so that we can find a meaningful kind of rest that restores our soul and gives us peace. God, we look to you as our example of how to do that. We trust you and we love you in Christ's name. Amen. All right. Thanks, y'all. See you on retreat. Peace.